like if you were free, I would come and like sign your office.
Right. Well, you can sit
Me and Marina kind of did that on like what was it? Wednesday we were working on it, literally right outside of our office. Any question we had to just like hop over.
The one extra unit that like the students
Did you find something?
I did, but like is introduction to yoga like that's
Yeah. Although I think you have to write papers in that class, just FYI.
There's that one, and then there's the actual like yoga one that's under dance.
But you need a no. This one is under dance.
Oh, the dance one is the one you want to take, not the one in the yoga master's.
No. It's a dance, but it's introduction because there's introduction and there's yoga 1 and then yoga 2.
Yeah. Put it back up. Okay.
Take yoga 1. It's really easy.
I'm taking introduction to yoga. I feel like that's even easier, right? Okay. I feel like this is downward dog.
But you know they're really like crazy. Like if you like don't attend a class, they'll make you go attend a different class. Like if you miss class, like I miss class. Like okay, go to the Friday section, go to the Thursday section.
Oh gosh, that's we are not about that. Like
She literally like make it up.
we do not do that.
Ow.
I would be like, I'm allowed to miss at least one class.
No, they all do that. All the instructors.
I've never
I'm wondering if like
I just want to know. I just want to know if you go to do the work
I
at
need to take 16
mine is just
Take only 14. Are you sure?
mine is
Yes, I'm
lost.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure
Everybody's
guys.
there.
Okay, Kathleen.
Friday.
So I don't need to take a full 4-unit class. I need like an easy 2-unit for
What classes are 2 units? I know about 1 unit more than I know about 3 units.
That's what we're all looking for.
I don't think there are right. No, I'm not sure.
Alright.
Kathleen, you know though.
I want to go to like short and easy class.
No, don't do that. Say I need a 2-unit class.
Oh my god.
Do not say I need an easy class. Say I need a 2-unit class.
I want to do an internship,
Yeah.
and then they messed me up.
You're not the prereqs.
But they don't need height.
Yeah, I know.
And then, so now I'm trying to do all that, and then I have like capstone and everything. So I want to take it not burning myself.
You guys want to grab one of these? I'm just trying to figure out how many students.
Oh, what?
It's like a sad song.
Just
Slide by Harry Hudson.
So I'm going to talk about.
Require me to get out of my seat. I hate things.
no, but Sean, you're the other class.
I'm going to.
It's pretty easy.
Which one?
But like a fake.
I know both of them.
I have vocal development, which is just breathing and making noise.
Would you have to be a minor to take it? Sorry.
They're up for because they're up for the mission.
You're not a major or a minor.
There's one class that says you have to be a major and a minor and you need consent. So like,
Well, you know, it's Friday. That's Friday.
I know, I've just never seen you wear jeans all day.
I heard you all the time. I was
Like casual jeans, like boyfriend jeans.
you know.
Like, I don't know, I didn't know you had that
I have quite the wardrobe, you guys.
kind of pizzazz.
I like to keep you on your toes.
In here. It fell, and I put it in the
Then we have one more module assignment too, and then our final.
You just like don't hear it out.
Yeah.
You're gonna
I'll
get
like
one.
ask one of them, I'll like ask one of them.
Well, do you want like your final to be worth more?
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
They're easy papers. They're like 2-page papers.
We also have
Distribution, are we doing an option?
No.
Well, we've been writing to
I love you all, but this is my class, and you work for me.
This is
Ultimatum. Wait.
I am here to teach you. You do the work that I assign. You don't get to choose what work you do.
Wait a minute.
I'm fine. I have purple email broke.
You can talk to me.
My birthday's on Sunday. You have to ask them. It's November. You have to ask them.
She really just said it.
You know, what you really need is Josh Fogg, because he makes the best actual arguments and beautiful arguments for why money should. But Paul Weber doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. I love you and your birthday, but. Do you remember he
Sean, you were successful at this one time.
What? Once.
Or maybe.
Almost gonna happen ever again.
Everyone gets one pass.
8
You
a.m.
guys out early. I was like,
The final?
I don't get to pick the time of the final.
But it says you have 8 to 10 a.m. What, so you
Oh my god!
2 hours.
You guys.
Yeah, we're seniors. It's not. We're complaining over.
So we have to be here from 8 to 10
Out
a.m.
on you after class.
We'll see.
Oh, it's only 2 hours. I thought it was 3.
Yeah. What, I mean, if it goes 3 hours, we'll let you come in an hour. I think it might be more than an hour if you do 3
That means I have to wake up.
Yes, and you took a wake up early. Oh my god, I get up at 4 a.m. every Monday, Friday, guys.
We're not like
You can get it together for fun.
Okay, then we're all gonna have to spend the night at work.
You will barely fit, but
We have air mattresses.
sure.
I call some
I don't know a lot of people.
Oh, I'm
You have a dog.
Pitbull Rottweiler.
And you're,
Oh yeah.
Does he have any games?
The dog has to be there.
Contenders? Game?
Oh my gosh, Ollie, really though?
He sleeps on my bed.
Over December break.
No, he's like right now. He's sleeping at night. I sleep in my bed.
My dog keeps me off my head. She likes to lay right in the middle.
All right, we should get started.
Favorite stomach.
All right.
This is really.
As she's staring at my coffee, guys, my head literally hurts so bad. Yeah. Are you sure? I think the next month. No, because we're reading. I had a dream that he gave me a smelling class. And it would be nice for nothing. I literally just woke up from that dream. I was like, I just and then I was we all just
I like knocked out. I like
said that same that she said that they died.
Stop.
So we just decided. For the class we have some big open.
Why don't you just take a different class?
Because it has a flag in it. That's the only class that has a flag.
Probably because you registered for I think that's common knowledge.
Mayor, they just write us out as a vacation.
They probably were like, oh, they probably just like time order.
But you know,
They don't find that. Dog.
Yeah, that's not fair.
I was like, I made sure to see, like, I was like, well, maybe they're not there all day, and like, so I tried, and they did, and I was like,
Morning, good morning. How are you? Thank you for coming on time today. I love how you do that for speakers. They don't do it for me, but you do. I really do.
There's a lot of
There's always an accident on the 405. You are, Talia. You're always here too, Hannah. Thank you. That's true. All right, guys. We are so very lucky to have Travis here with us this morning. I'm just going to introduce him briefly, and then he's going to take over, and he has so much to talk to you guys about. So Travis is an award-winning children's book author. He's a theater graduate of Marymount Manhattan College.
Sister school to this school.
Right? Yay! And he's a nationally recognized speaker and advocate for multiple charities. He's a graduate of NYU, where he obtained a master's degree in fundraising and grant making. Travis is a cystic fibrosis survivor. He's a two-time double lung transplant recipient. He currently lives here in LA, which is why we're so lucky that he's here this morning, where he continues his artistic career alongside his philanthropic work. Please help me welcome Travis.
So the first thing I want to address right now is stereotypes, because I think that is a big issue that I have faced my entire life, and I just kind of want to get them off the table. So the first thing that a lot of people, when you don't know about an illness like cystic fibrosis, is it's not contagious. None of you are going to get sick. However, if any of you are sick, we do need to separate here, because my health is very, very critical because I had immune problems with my transplant.
Is anyone in the first two tables currently ill?
We're good?
Okay.
All right.
Then so we can just have you move to the back.
Yeah, it's not big. You don't have to leave. It's like get out. But so yeah, it's really important to just get the stereotypes off. So I think the biggest one that I want to address before I talk about the things that I do is that I'm capable and I'm able. I got out of the hospital yesterday after a week of being there, after being in the ICU. I still, right now, actually some of the students got to see this, I still have an IV in my arm. I just got done with my IV therapy in my backpack. But it was really important. I was going to Skype in, but I called her this morning at like 7:30. And it was just really important for me to come here and speak to you in person because I believe in breaking those stereotypes. I don't want to be looked at as, the sick guy who couldn't make it into class and we'll have to reschedule him. Like, I don't want that. So if I got out of the hospital last night, we talked, I was like, I have to figure out a way to get here, and I am here. So that's the first thing I want to just talk about, is when you think about illness, when you meet people with illness, try to separate the things that you've seen on film and television from the people that you're actually speaking to, because a lot of the things you see on film and television are general stereotypes. They're romanticized versions of a life that is certainly not romantic most of the time. So please keep that in mind in the future that you do in your work. The other thing I wanted to let you know is there are business cards that are on the table. I put them on there specifically because I hire people that care about people like me and care about my community. So, speaking with some of the students that were in here earlier this morning, there's a lot of people that look for internships, and that's really hard in LA. Well, for me, when I'm looking for anyone to work with me, the first thing I ask them is, what's your connection to rare disease? What's your goal? What's your drive? What's your passion? And if they don't have a very specific answer about what they want to do in their career goals, then I don't really see how I can help. But if they come to me and they say, I want to help people like you. I want to be in arts and entertainment and help those people. I want to be in healthcare and help those people. I want to be a nonprofit and help those people. That's where I'm like, okay, where can I help you? Because I'm connected to so many charities, so many nonprofits, so many phone calls that I can pick up and help somebody. So that's why my business card's there, is I'm here to help you, to engage with you, to answer your questions, and to hopefully provide career paths. That's what your professors are here for. I know that you guys were like having a little banter about homework and stuff, but I can tell you that, as an undergrad, I started college when I was 16. And I finished NYU when I was 21, turning 22 with a master's degree. It was hard. There was many times, especially when I was sick and on IV therapy, that I did not want to go to class. But I got myself there, and I have this I have a master's degree now, and that speaks volumes to people when you're going in for meetings, when you're able to speak eloquently, and you're able to also talk about your experience in school. Because this is where you're learning not necessarily how to have that particular career you want, but how to work with people. That's the biggest thing about school that I learned, is it's about collaboration. If you don't know how to collaborate, then you might as well start your own company. And even then, you have to learn how to collaborate with your employees. It's really important to do those things. She mentioned that I had published a children's book, so I'll talk about that for a second. So this is The Spider Who Never Gave Up. It was something that I wrote when I was 8 years old. I met a lot of kids in the hospital for the first time who were dealing with terminal illness. And it was devastating for me as a little kid to meet these people who were just a few years older than me, who didn't have hope, who didn't want to get out of their bed, who didn't want to take advantage of free ice cream. Like, I didn't understand this. And so I was like, how can I turn this negative thing into something positive? So I was like, what am I terrified of? Spiders, to this day. So I was like, I can take a spider and somehow turn this into something positive for the kids. So I wrote a story about a spider who couldn't spin a web. And through the story of the book, he tries and tries and tries and fails and fails and fails. And so finally, after time and practice, he's able to do it. And I presented the book to the kids. They were really, really thrilled by it. Their attitudes changed. And when I was 8 years old, I recognized that. And I said, this is what I need to do. This is my life. As an 8-year-old, I need to figure out how to continue doing this. So when I was 12 years old, I approached Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I said, I think I'm ready for a wish. They said, great, like Disneyland, like what do you want to do? I was like, publish a book. And they're like, what? And I said, I really want to publish a book. And they said, great, we'll hook you up with a magazine, like we'll print it. I was like, no, like I want a book. Like it's really important that it's its own book. And they didn't know how to do that. They'd never done that before. So it took actually 15 years from this time is when we started illustrating it. It was released April 30th, 15 years next year. And it has raised over $1 million to Make-A-Wish Foundation. We didn't expect that. I just wanted to put it out there and hope kids would read it. I didn't know that it was going to turn into what it did. I did a 3-year book tour. This particular book is really special. I gave it to her because this is Disney's book. Disney ended up picking up the book and doing their own thing with it. And it really changed the course of my life and made me realize that having a voice and having a direction in your life can really, really catapult you to the goals that you want, even as a 12-year-old, he's a 13-year-old. By the time I was 16, I had started to become really ill. I was talking earlier about how I didn't play sports, but I used to race cars. And from 6 to 16, when I wasn't on book tour, I was racing cars. And I got into a bad accident, and my health started to decline. So I said, I have to put this on hold. I've done this for 3 years, what's next? And so I applied to college. I got in at 16, and that's where my college career began. And I really put all of my attention from 16 to 21, 22 into undergrad and graduate school. Moved to New York City, went to Marymount Manhattan College, which is a sister school. Went to NYU for grad school. And let me tell you, applying to NYU for grad school when you're 19, I literally was doing it, forgive my language, for shits and giggles. I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to get into a program that this particular program only accepts 20 people around the world a year. And I was like, there's no way. But with my background in charity work, with my direction, with my ability to go in and interview well, I was accepted into the program. I led a fundraising campaign that raised, our goal was to raise $12,000 in one night for a soup kitchen in New York. We raised $30,000 in one night. It's all about your drive and your motivation. So before I go into some of the topics that I want to talk about here in terms of my career and healthcare and whatnot, I also want to do a little intro about you. So I understand this is a mixed group of people, what you want to do with your career. So how many of you are wanting to go into PR? Cool. How many of you are wanting to go into healthcare? Great. Congratulations. Were you going into healthcare or no? Did you raise your hand? Yeah. Okay. How many of you are going into social work in general, nonprofit? No. What am I missing?
What do the rest of you want to do?
Marketing. Okay. What kind of marketing?
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing. Cool. Like social media or like?
Yeah.
Great. So these are all things that I really want you guys to engage me with because I have been all over the spectrum of PR and media, especially when it comes to entertainment, disability, healthcare, and nonprofit. So I really want to engage with you guys on this. So I found it interesting. Do you buy Allison or Allie? I heard you.
People call me whatever they want. I usually go by Allie.
Okay. So Allie,
not in the classroom necessarily, but people call me that.
So Allie emailed me some topics to talk about, and I really wanted to address this thing. She said, "Can you talk about healthcare, the good, the bad, and the ugly?" And the first thing I noticed is in our country, it's sad that we have 2 out of 3 adjectives that are negative. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And like that is sad. That's really sad. And it's going to take our generation, people like us, people like you, to change that, to make it where it's more adjectives that are positive than negative. This is Clement, by the way. He is my wonderful husband, he's from France. Healthcare there is very different. So when he and I have these conversations, like leaving the hospital last night, I was scared to leave. And the reason why is because my insurance will cover my healthcare when I'm in the hospital, but the second I go home, everything's up in the air. And we had this conversation where he's like, I don't understand why an insurance company is willing to pay millions of dollars for you to stay in a hospital, but pay way less for you to go home. Why? And I can't answer that. That's where we need to figure it out. That's where we need the PR and media to take on stories that talk about this. How many of you read stories about Claire Weinman? I figured you would.
It will be.
Yeah, Claire Wineland was a cystic fibrosis patient who was very active in media and trying to bring attention to the fact that she was dying and she wasn't being heard the way that she wanted to be. Claire and I are very different in that I was active in trying to get transplant and like wanting to pursue that life. She was very active in wanting to say, it's okay for me to not want transplant, but it's not okay for me to have to choose between life and death. She shouldn't have to choose because you can't afford it. And so Claire had her transplant on September 2nd, and she passed away because of complications with it. Stories like that, what you guys do in the future, whether it is in the healthcare, social work, digital marketing, whatever it is, if you find stories like that, it's your opportunity to share those stories because those are the conversations that start to get legislation to change. Those are the conversations that get people, forget my politics, like the president out of the office. Those are the kinds of conversations that can really impact people in our country. You know, sitting here talking about like what he's doing every single day in that house in Washington is not important. What he's not doing is important. That's what the conversation needs to be. So I just wanted to address the fact that, you know, moving forward in your careers, think about the fact that we have adjectives, good, bad, and ugly, for healthcare, and how can we change that? And you know, maybe it's not going to be easy, obviously, we've tried. But maybe it starts with just changing the adjectives. Maybe it says, instead of good, bad, and ugly, it's good, could be better, and ugly.
The ugly is there, unfortunately.
The ugly is there. It's always going to be there. I mean, when you see my healthcare bill, guys, it's like, it's not fun. So the next thing that that she wanted me to address, and I'm streamlining through some of these because I don't have time to talk and have a conversation. She wanted me to talk about shifts in healthcare organizations. So this is a really fun topic, actually, because when I was at NYU, two big things happened, right before NYU and right at NYU. The Livestrong fiasco, and then the Susan G. Komen fiasco. While I was studying fundraising at NYU, while digital marketing was becoming a huge player, while social media was exploding, when I was at NYU, Twitter was like a new ground. YouTube was up and coming big, but it was this new way of transparency. And all of a sudden, these nonprofits were under a magnifying glass, and things were being brought up, and things were being shut down, and people didn't want to talk, and there was these huge shifts all of a sudden in who do you support as a donor, who do you support as an employee, because as an employee, you have a good job, you have a salary, but how do you work for a nonprofit that embezzles money? And knowing that they embezzle money would still help people. It's a real moral issue, and I faced that at NYU because I was a part of the Livestrong. Like, I mean, I know so many people with cancer in my life. I was a part of that. With Susan G. Komen, same thing. So to hear the two big organizations that were spotlighting major cancer issues fall like that, it was devastating. And all of a sudden, those nonprofits had to learn how to fundraise again. And then something else happened that I wasn't very familiar with until it happened. There was a scandal at UPenn where a coach was fired.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if many of you remember. Am I aging myself that much? There was a scandal at UPenn with a coach that was fired because he got caught molesting students. And all of a sudden, you had all of these athletic people saying, how could you fire him? This was 10 years ago. And then you have the other side of the conversation, like obviously, you fire him. You don't pay him millions of dollars to coach a football team and let someone get away with this. And he had a nonprofit that helped children. So I mean, there was so many shifts while I was at NYU, and it's still shifting because every single year, as he would know, digital marketing is changing. Every year, there's a new social media platform someone's trying to launch, trying to take down Twitter, trying to take over Instagram, and then what ends up happening is Facebook and Instagram buy everything, Twitter buys Vine, Vine shuts down, and then you're left with like all of these people, all of these influencers who don't know what to do, and that is where we have the opportunity to come up to people who have millions of followers and say, hey, so Vine shut down, and you unfortunately didn't study college yet. So how can we, as people in college, people who are educated, who have master's degree and undergrad degrees, how can we engage you as an influencer and help you help us with our brand? And that, I mean, moving forward, that's been a huge transition for nonprofits, finding spokespeople, finding someone to go, hi, I'm Travis Flores, and I support Make-A-Wish Foundation. And then those views add up for Make-A-Wish, or those views add up for Starlight, or whatever organization the celebrity or influencer is doing something for. So moving forward in media and communication, there's going to be a bigger shift with that. Because I think people are going to start to realize that you can't just smile in front of a camera and take a photo and say you support something without actually showing that you support it. So when you guys are going and you're looking for people to work with you, make sure that it's not just a billboard and not just a face. Make sure that you work with people who are like you, who actually care. I mean, that's what I said in the very beginning, is I'm trying to find people to join my team of people who actually want to change things. And there's a lot of cool things that are happening in 2019 I've not announced yet, and I'm going to talk about here for the first time. I'm really excited. And there's a lot of things that I think you guys could have opportunity in. There's a lot of things that I think you guys could even help me understand better, because I'll be 28, and I certainly don't understand some things about media and all the dabbing stuff. I don't quite get it, but I want to understand what it is that attracts the youth and the upcoming generation, because it's important for me to understand. So this is just as important for me as it is for you to ask questions. So I also, she wanted me to talk about the last 3 years of my journey to today. I'm going to sit just for a second of this, because I am getting a little tired. It's part of the ID therapy. And I'm going to try not to cry, just because I am a really open person, and I believe in that kind of discussion. I believe it adds a realness to it, and I want you guys to feel like you can ask me anything, because I'm an open book. So much so that I told you guys I'm married, and that's not anywhere online. Nobody knows we're even dating. So please keep that quiet, actually. I'm like, wait a second. So I was born with cystic fibrosis. I lived a really wonderful life, and then when I moved to Los Angeles, I was 23 years old, and or 22 years old, sorry, 2013. When I turned 23, I was given a year to live. And when you're told something like that, you don't quite understand it, because your whole life you're being told, you're going to live this old, you're going to live this old. When you're living like me, not like a normal person, obviously, but you're always limited. And I started to really believe in two things. The first one was, I wasn't going to live for cystic fibrosis, I was going to live with it. I'm not going to make my decisions based on my disease. I'm going to make my decisions based on what's best for me and my disease. The next thing I learned, which is on most of my social media, is people with limitations often exceed expectations. And what I mean by that is, when I was younger and people were telling me that my life expectancy was going to be 10, and then 13, and then 16, and then 18, and then 20, and every year it got closer to my actual age. All of a sudden, I was in this point where I was moving to Los Angeles, and I said, I'm going to do everything I can so that moment I close my eyes at the end of my life, or when I'm going into that transplant, which I wasn't listed for yet, I will feel fulfilled. My biggest fear in all of my life was closing my eyes and being scared that I'd say, but I didn't get to do this. But I have this to do. I didn't get to say this. And I started living really truthfully to myself, and started finding ways for me to have a voice that's larger than I've ever had before. My own voice, I guess you should say. My voice has often been used in nonprofit and charity, but I wanted my own voice. And So flash forward, I was given a year to live, 2014. We don't know this, and this is why I'm struggling right now. 4 years ago today, I was listed for my first transplant at UCLA. I went into the ICU. My parents live in Ohio, and my doctor called and said, you need to come and say goodbye. He is not going to survive unless he gets his lungs soon. And the wait for a transplant is usually 6 months, and we don't even have his blood type. We don't know. We're listing him now as an emergency situation. So I sat in the hospital from November 16th until, yes, November 16th, yeah. Okay. I had to think about that for a second, because there's 2 transplants now, but from November 16th until March 3rd, I sat in that hospital at UCLA looking out my window, hoping that someday I'd be out of there, not on oxygen, not on IV therapy, and able to return to a voice and be able to do something great. And during that time, I had 4 dry runs, which means they call you and they say, we have an organ donor. You get ready for surgery, you go down to the OR, and then they say, we're sorry, it didn't work. And every single time, you lose a little bit of hope. And then the last call came, the 5th call. And it was March 3rd, and I watched the movie Big Hero 6. Yeah. And I still watch it on March 3rd every year. And I went into that surgery, I closed my eyes, and I felt fulfilled. And the reason why is because I realized in that moment, this is really what I want to share in this story with you. I realized in that moment, it's not about how much you do, it's about what you've done. It's not about having millions of followers. It's about what you say to those followers. And I felt fulfilled going into that because I was like, wow, I maybe had a voice with charities, but I had a voice, and that's something. And so I went to sleep, I woke up. This is where it gets hard. I had a year and 6 months of amazing life. My mom, when I was younger, had melanoma skin cancer when I was dealing with cystic fibrosis. I was getting treatment in a children's hospital 4 hours from where she was getting chemotherapy. And she still drove back and forth to see me. And she was cleared cancer for years. And then in September of 2016, she got diagnosed with a brain tumor. I was with her unexpectedly in Ohio, just visiting when she got diagnosed. And she she was getting ready to go in for her, consulting for surgery. We didn't know if it was benign or not. It was benign, so she's okay. Yeah, take that off. Oh gosh. She's here, and she's a grandma now. She's very, not with me, but my older brother just had a baby October 23rd. While she was going in for her consultations, I got a call. They said, Travis, you need to come back to LA. You're in chronic rejection. And I couldn't tell my mom, who was my rock, because she had to focus on herself. I came back to LA. Ironically, I had to come back to LA, to be honest, because right after that call, I got a call from LAX. And this is a light story to add to this. They said, hi, is this Travis Flores? And I said, yes. And they said, was your car a Super BRZ? And I said, what do you mean was? Somebody had gone through a gate at LAX and totaled my car. So I had to come back to LA. So I was like, Mom, I have to go back to LA. She's like, I'm about to have brain surgery. What do you mean? I was like, well, LAX, somebody totaled my car. I have to go deal with this. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course. I'll be fine. We're strong. We can do this. And I left. She had no idea. I went into treatment immediately after dealing with LAX. And
Can you explain what that means? Chronic rejection?
Yes. Chronic rejection means the organs that were transplanted into your body are not working. And they're failing. And it can happen over the course of a few years, or it can happen over the course of shorter time, which is what was happening to me. I went from a normal life to 1 year later being in the ICU with chest tubes in my chest. This was last year in September actually. Dying, literally dying, and accepting that I was going to die, because a second transplant, first transplant is great. That's a miracle. A second one, impossible in my mind. And my strength, my weak, I had been through so much, I was tired. But I still had something to say in the world, and I didn't know that yet. And so I went into the hospital. Our second date was the ER. He was very sweet. And October 3rd, 2017, I got the call for a transplant again. And I had about 24 hours to live is what the doctor had prognosed my family. I was really in and out of it. If you look on my social media, there's videos of me that's like, hi guys. Like, I was so out of it, but I wanted to keep people up to date of what was going on. So I go into the surgery. Major complications. A 6-hour transplant turned into a 14-hour surgery. My family, including him, thought, you know, he's not going to survive. There's a reason why this is taking so long, because they're struggling. Well, I survived, and this time around, my donor family and I are friends. My donor's sister came to visit me while I was in the hospital just this last week. She gave me the most precious gift that I ever could have been given. When she came to visit me, she gave me this. And she said, this is a tree of life. My family wants you to have this. Inside of it are all those ashes. So I have him with me always, right over my lungs. And now I am here, speaking with you guys, sharing just pieces of my story so that you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But the last 3 years have been particularly hard, but I haven't stopped. And that's because I believe in change. And I believe that it takes people with voices like yours and like mine to create that change. And the second a voice is silenced, you lose something. And I can speak to that too. You know, Christina Grimmie was a really good friend of mine. She was on The Voice, and she was shot and killed in 2016. Her voice being silenced was devastating. But now there's a foundation in her name that brings awareness to victims of gun violence, not the politics of it, but to help victims of gun violence and to help breast cancer patients, because her mom had breast cancer. She actually just passed away in September as well. But I still had something to say, and I wanted to be able to say it. And I think that, you know, whether it's the soul or the universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in, I believe that's what kept me going. And now I'm here doing amazing things that I'm so happy I get to share with you guys first. So the first thing that I want to talk about that I'm doing recently is, and this is what the cards are on the table. So I'm a writer. I've been writing for a long time. I promise it's not just children's books. This is a half a page on Microsoft Word. So I started writing screenplays and scripts when I was in college because I was studying that. And I started working on a script called Sort of Supportive. And it was about my life as a patient and a teenager in the hospital. And what I started to realize in media and in film and TV is that people romanticized everything I was going through. It was like, oh my gosh, like, 2 sick people falling in love, they're terminal, 1 dies, oh, but they hold on to that love forever. And I'm like, that's not really how it is. It's more like, Travis, you need to go, you know, clear out your bowels, like, go use the bathroom. You have IV therapy, no visitors right now. It's not romantic. It's really, really hard. So I was like, how can I take these stories that I experienced going from support group to support group to support group and turn it into something relatable to everyone, but also real. And so that was Sort of Supportive was born. And over the course of 6 years, I rewrote, pitched it. And rejection is just a part of this industry in every form, whether it's entertainment, nonprofit, communications, digital media, marketing, whatever it is. You pitch things, and they don't like it. And you may believe every piece of you is in it. You're like, yes, this is going to sell. And it just doesn't right now. But that doesn't mean it can't. So I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I'm very pleased to say that I executive produced Sort of Supportive in August of this year. We had a great cast. I'm going to show you guys, for the first time ever in a setting like this, a clip of the show. It's amazing. If you guys watch any of the Hollywood reports that come out, like Deadline and Variety, we were in Deadline in August because we did something very unique. The first thing is the music that we're using on the show is Christina Grimmie's music. I wanted to bring a legacy back to my friend. The second thing we did is I refused to cast people who didn't have a disability, a chronic condition, or have a real understanding of what it's like to live with one or see someone go through it. Every single person in our cast and crew had that connection. It's a really different situation. We didn't have distribution. that's another thing that was really unique about this whole project, is we were doing a pilot with a lot of money, but we didn't have anywhere to go at the time. So the fact that we were able to get media coverage behind it took people like you to see it and say, this needs to be covered. I know that Deadline doesn't cover things that doesn't have like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, whatever it is, but this is special and important, so how can we do something? So they covered it, and it exploded on media. So I'm going to show you a clip. In this scene, it is, this is weird, I feel like I'm setting up a clip for the first time. In this scene, it's my character is just coming to the support group room, and he's meeting these kids who are really terminal, really sick, and they don't really want to keep going, they don't really want to be there. And my character's like, well, I mean, if we're going to die, why aren't we just living? I don't really get it. Like, why aren't we just doing things now? Like, why are we waiting to die? And this is the establishing moment where the support group goes, let's make bucket list items. Let's do something. So every episode, they're going to do something. The first episode, I'll do a spoiler alert. The first episode ends with them deciding they want to go skydiving. So I'm not going to tell you how they do it, but if you can imagine kids wearing oxygen tanks with IV bags and wheelchairs skydiving, you can imagine all the things and all the possibilities. It is possible, but it's an interesting thing that we have to do. So is it on? Will it show on here?
Yep.
Okay.
Someone grab the light.
And this is all about activism, by the way. This whole show, the reason why I'm showing you this clip is because I want people like you, because the people like you who are in healthcare, social media, digital marketing, entertainment, nonprofit, we want everyone like that involved in this show. We granted a Make-A-Wish on set. A girl with leukemia wanted to be an actress. We made her an actress. And it was amazing because 15 years after my wish process started. So it was like this huge circle that came together. There's another girl on the show. She's not in this clip. Her name is Violet Shapiro. She's been on Ellen a ton. She's a Make-A-Wish girl. She reviews a lot of Ellen's products. A long time ago, I met her. She was like 6, and she was in remission from cancer. She's 7 or 8 now. But I met her at a Make-A-Wish event, and I said, what do you want to do, Violet? She said, I want to be an actress. I said, promise you one day, if I have the ability, I'm going to make you an actress. And she's one of the stars of the show. I mean, it's all about activism and doing good things. And you'll see, I mean, this show, it looks great. Okay.
Colin, keep expressing your emotions around this.
I mean, we're always told as kids that we can grow up and become anyone we want to be and do anything we want to do. Why not now? Why not right now? Forget the rules. Forget the precautions, the stigmas.
You are so poetic.
Oh.
She's talking about you, not me. I was throwing up in my mouth over what Chloe was saying. But for what it's worth, I do think you're a goddamn genius.
Danny, please do not say God's name in vain.
Oh, please. God gave me veins that roll every time I'm getting blood work done. I think we're even.
I want a motion for a new mission for the support group.
I second that motion.
Okay, well, you guys want to call your group? Maybe Chloe can make shirts.
Yeah, Christ's children.
I'm Jewish.
God's children.
I'm atheist.
What about, sort of supportive? I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? It's not going to cure us, but sort of helpful. We sort of learn. We sort of find hope. Maybe we sort of find meaning.
Sort of supportive. Shall we take a vote?
I'm in.
Yeah, me too.
Danny and I actually agree on something.
It's a miracle. Okay, founding members of Sort of Supportive. What's first on the agenda?
I'm so happy to show you guys that.
Yeah. That was that girl from Parent Trap, right?
She's hilarious, by the way. There's so many moments when you're working with someone like that, because I love The Parent Trap, I love Superstar, I loved a lot of the stuff she was in, And I had no part in that casting of her. Like, we had a casting director, so when she came up into the project, I was kind of like, didn't expect this. Didn't expect this. And then you have to go through as, you know, as a writer, as a creator, as an executive producer, and as an actor and fan of her. You have to kind of minimalize all of that and try not to quote things that she said in films because you love it so much. But what's great about her is she quoted herself. So it allowed us to have that fun. So she made a joke one time where we were filming that scene, and she was like, we should have like a lizard come down into my mouth. And I was like, yeah, that would be funny. I mean, I don't think it's right for this scene, maybe in the future. And yeah, she would quote things, but that scene in particular was one of the last scenes we filmed. It was one of the hardest scenes we filmed, because right before you hear me say those lines, he has to put on oxygen for the first time. Everyone rushes in, the medical staff is putting things on very accurately, and he's realizing this is real, that he's going to die unless he gets transplanted, and he's not listed. It's very real to me. So right before this, there's an explosion of emotion from the support group. We didn't want to show that clip because we wanted it to be more uplifting. But I hope you guys like that. It's the first time I'm showing it in a setting like this. It's only been shown like 2 other times in very, very small nonprofit groups. But yeah, I'm really proud of that. The other thing I want to announce here, that I'm not going to announce on social media, but I want you guys to know about it because I think we can benefit from talking about it. So 15 years, my book came out next April 30th. Make-A-Wish is re-releasing it in hardback edition for the first time. We're hoping to raise another $1 million next year. So however you guys think that you'd like to participate, I want to participate with you. I want to give you the opportunity to come in and work with us on this project because I think you add value to it. I think you're all here for a reason. I think you're all really smart. You're in a great program and a great school with a great professor. And I want to help you. I want to help you get involved in whatever it is that you want. What you want to do. The final thing I'm going to let him talk about for a second, and however you need help, is where do you go from here? You know, you do a show like this, you have these great projects, but there's still a wall. And the wall is when you have a condition or you're in healthcare and you're trying to break through the boundaries, you're looked at like a liability. People are scared of you. People don't want to hire you. People don't want to give you the time. So how do you break down those barriers? When I was leaving the hospital, I just shared this with Allie. When I was leaving the hospital last night, I got a call from my agent. She says, I have an audition for you on Monday. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. She goes, film's in Atlanta, Georgia. Can you do it? And I said, we'll see. The role is a cystic fibrosis character on the show The Resident, who's looking to have a double lung transplant in the show. And I was like, well, this is me. The problem is, will they look at me and see marketing potential, or will they look at me and see a liability? And it's going to come down to Monday, and I will let you know what happens. It's an interesting thing that he is addressing now, because I'll let you kind of explain from up here. So I'll let him explain a little bit more, but he studied law in France, and then he came to USC, studied law, and he's going into entertainment law now. He's a great lawyer, I can vouch for that. But I can tell you, see?
We have some people who want to go into entertainment law.
Yeah, I can tell you what he experienced going through, because he wanted to go into corporate law at first. What he experienced watching me go through contract negotiations with a group of people who looked at me like I was less than them, it was horrific. The fact that they looked at me and said, you should just be grateful you even have an opportunity, you're sick. The fact that they wanted to say that they owned 50% of the entire show and 50% of my personal earnings because I should just be grateful that I have an opportunity. And he said, no. And for 6 weeks, every day, and forgive my language, but that's what happened.
We swear.
For 6 weeks, every day, from, you got up at 6 because it was East Coast time there, from 6 a.m. until 3 p.m., He was on the phone with those people and their attorneys saying, no, you don't treat him this way. He is a person, he's talented, and he has something to offer. And after 6 weeks of contract negotiation, you better clap when I tell you this, I own 100% of the show. Which is why I was able to show it here. Which is why, when I'm going forward with distribution, and Amazon, or hopefully Amazon is what we're looking at, we'll just say Amazon.
You don't know yet. You don't know yet.
Yeah. When it gets distribution, it gets ordered as a series, I will be able to decide what happens creatively. I will be able to say, you know what, in the show, we granted a Make-A-Wish. Every season, we're going to grant 3. I will be able to say, in the show, there's in the playroom scene, which you didn't get to see, there's these really cool gowns, like not hospital gowns. They're hospital gowns, but they don't look like them. They're just like beautiful gowns. Starlight Children's Foundation designs gowns for kids in the hospitals. They don't feel like they're hospital patients. We called Starlight and said, we want you in. Starlight said, yes. So we have already Make-A-Wish involved. We have Starlight involved. We have the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation involved. We have Global Genes involved. We didn't go the natural route of saying, hey, Hollywood, what can you bring to us? We went to nonprofits and said, what can we do for you? And the last thing that we're doing that's very, very different, that I am insistent on, to the point that we had to cancel it today because we're still dealing with people that I'm dealing with. Tonight was supposed to be the premiere. And it wasn't going to be the premiere at a Hollywood theater. We're going to premiere it at UCLA Medical Center for the hospital staff and patients first. Because I don't care right now what Rotten Tomatoes says about the show. What I care about is a patient and their family and their staff that takes care of them saying, this is me. This is what I go through as a caretaker. This is what I go through as a patient. And this is what I go through, this is what I go through as somebody who watches this happen all the time in the hospital. And it's hard to watch a child get sick. And it's hard to watch a child die. But if you actually portray it realistically, it can do something. It can change something. And that's what he's doing now with the company, and I'll let you introduce the company.
Yeah, so it's like at home he's speaking for 2 people, so just not holding the stage for too long. Yeah, experiencing what Travis has been through, I decided to launch a company for representing disabled talents in TV shows or like any kind of arts and public arts. And so it's really embryonic right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, as soon as I can launch it, I would be willing to include people like young talent like you, if you're in social marketing or whatever you're doing, you think that you can, and you want to help people with disabilities to pierce into this industry. So that's really my goal here, and that's pretty it. That's pretty much what I wanted to tell you guys. Thank you a lot to giving me the opportunity to speak in front of this class, because I know speaking is really important for him. And that's pretty much it. If you want my card, I can give you my card. Just
the people who are interested.
Yeah, if you're interested in law, I mean, I was working for a law firm in France at the time. I was doing capital operations and tax law. It's really different from what I'm doing on here. But yeah, if I can, you said at the very beginning of the speech, whatever you're doing at work, you can help disabled people. And well, I do law, so if I can help people that doesn't have the chance to be healthy, to at least have the best of their life, well, that's the least I can do. So thank you all very much for listening to him, and I hope to hear from you soon.
I'm so proud of him, by the way. Like he just said, going from tax law and corporate law and having a real passion for that, like he came to this country wanting to do that. And simply watching this experience and what I went through, he changed, 180, like completely turned around and said, how many people out there are like this? And I was like, I know off the top of my head 5 people who are fantastic speakers who have disabilities who aren't paid to speak. And like, I'm not paid to speak here today, just so you know. I just throw it out there, no. That's not what this is about. But like at huge venues where they have money and they're hiring someone to come speak, to share their story, an intimate story like this, they won't pay us, but they'll pay a celebrity. And I get the celebrity brings people, but so does a story. And if you just have the marketing behind that person, people will come. And like that's where he really wants to change that with speakers and artists and writers and actors. And he really wants to give those opportunities to people. And I see it all the time with people in this industry who are disabled, whether they're amputees or have chronic illness. You know, I went into an audition for a company that was doing an ability campaign for clothing. And they asked me to come in and share part of my story, to maybe cast me as one of their models to show their clothing for people who are disabled. Absolutely, I wanted to be in this. I went 5 minutes into 5 minutes into kind of just explaining a little bit about me and my story, because they asked me, you know, to take 10 minutes to talk about what I went through. 5 minutes into it, the producer comes in and goes, you know what, you're really boring us. So yeah, we're just going to cut you off there. We have other people. And I remember just thinking, I sat here for 5 minutes and opened up to you about some of the hardest things I have been through, and you're going to diminish me like that. And I walked out of that audition, I called my agent, I said, we'll never audition for somebody like that again, never send me out like that again. And that's the conversation he's going to change. He's not going to send clients out for auditions unless the people calling the clients are aware that they are unique and special and important and have a voice, and they're willing to share. I mean, when I come to the events and venues and even small classrooms like this, I really try to take the opportunity to share as much as I can in the little time that I have, because my hope is that you'll leave wanting to do something. And not necessarily with me or with Kumant, but wanting to do something for yourself. And I don't know, you know, sometimes illness is invisible. A lot of times, actually. Right now, if I hadn't showed you how to pick line in my arm, you probably wouldn't know. You wouldn't know I have a scar across my chest or a feeding tube in my stomach. You wouldn't know these things. They're invisible. And there might be someone in this classroom right now who has an invisible illness who doesn't talk about it because they're afraid. They don't want to be judged. They don't want to be treated differently. But that's where we need to change it. We need to make it to where they can tell us, so that we can say, how can we support you? Like, how can we help you in times when you can't? Because in this last week, guys, I was every day on the phone hustling while I was in IV therapy in the ICU, emailing with her, talking with companies that are wanting to work together in the coming year. And I had to do that, because if I don't, people will say, instead of saying, oh, naturally, he's in the hospital, give him a break, they'll say, oh, he's not going to ever be able to work with us. He's always going to have a problem. So I was exhausted still taking phone calls and meetings because I don't want people to see me that way. But if I don't do it, they will, until we change that conversation. So I'm happy to open up now and just talk. Questions that you have, anything else sort of supportive. This has been, you know, not sort of supportive, but anything that you have about that. Anything at all. YouTube's a great thing. Yeah.
Did you ever, like, I mean, you might have, I doubt it, I guess, but did you ever, like, with the hindrance, I guess, like, feel like you could never do what you wanted to do, or did you always be like, I'm going to do it?
No, absolutely. In fact, me and I have we just had this conversation the other day, where I'm like, I need to go to med school. Like, why am I sitting here letting people walk all over me, trying to take control of something I've worked so hard for? And why am I doing this? Like, I could be putting my energy into being a children's psychologist and helping the kids who are going through transplant understand the process and being there for them. Why am I not doing that? Because that's just as helpful as what I'm doing now, if not more. But it comes down to the fact that I feel my place is to change the conversation. And being a social worker or a psychologist or a psychiatrist is great. But I feel like we have enough people that are trying to change the conversation in that field. There's a lot of studies that go on every year at hospitals across the world. We don't have people in entertainment saying, wait a second, you know, we have great movements with the Me Too. We have great movements for trying to include different races and different cultures in film. Where's disability? Where's the real people who are disabled playing real amputees or real chronic illness patients? Like, we don't have that yet. That's missing. And that's where I'm trying to change. So I do all the time feel like I'll tell you Monday after this audition, if I feel completely let down, I will have a moment where I'm like, why did I even go there? Why did I even think that they would consider me for the cystic fibrosis patient double lung transplant role? Why would I be considered? Yeah, so.
You seem like a really passionate guy, and you seem like a really busy guy. Like, it sounds like almost that you have kind of no downtime for just, Travis. Like, Travis time. Like, hey, I'm just going to kick it today and just watch some TV. So my question is, like, what's your you time? What's your escape?
I love that question. So I am very busy. I'm constantly in meetings and constantly pitching, but I love doing what I do. My downtime is really at night. We try to shut down around 6 p.m. He loves my spaghetti and the way I cook. So we can all have spaghetti with the amount I make, trust me. I make a giant batch of spaghetti. We sit down, we stream Netflix and Hulu. We're into so many different shows. I have to be aware of what's on film and television. Some of the stuff we watched, we just finished a show on Amazon called Forever. I love the actors, Maya Rudolph and Fred Armisen. Love them. I have no idea what that show is about. We watched the whole thing. We binge watched it. At the end of it, we're like, at the end of it, I looked at it and we were like just laying in bed last night, and it finished. And I went, what is this? Like, I got frustrated. I was like, how does this have distribution and sort of supportive is still fighting? But yeah, so like I find downtime in watching film and TV. We watch a lot of Shark Tank because I am so interested and invested in amazing, cool products. I can also connect any of you who are interested in more healthcare related stuff with a girl. Her name's Emily. She has a company that launched called Mighty Well. They design patient-centric products. This is one of them. It is a med case that can be refrigerated. It holds my meds for a week. It holds syringes. It holds diabetic stuff. The PIC line cover that I have over my arm is hers. So any of you that are interested more in healthcare, design, marketing, that stuff, I'm happy to connect you with her. She has 6 products launching next year. I am trying to use my connections to get her on Shark Tank because I think she would explode overnight if she went on Shark Tank. Her passion, her drive, her products, she doesn't go cheap. She finds good material and she sells it for good pricing. I'll just pull it up just so you guys can see it. So it's there so you have it. Yeah, so we watch a lot of Shark Tank, and then we also try to watch a lot of movies and film and TV. I have a hard time watching any film and TV that's medical. I really do. There's a lot of storylines that I can't handle, and I love the shows. I have a friend that's on The Good Doctor. I love her, and I love him. The problem is there was an episode about transplant in the first season where they put a liver on the back of a car.
Oh, I saw that.
And I was horrified. I was like, what is going on? And I work with Donate Life and Donate Life Hollywood. And Donate Life Hollywood this year did an award ceremony where we awarded different shows, and they awarded The Good Doctor that episode. And I went to the executive who was awarding them, and I said, why the hell are you encouraging this? And this is the true, and this has to stay in this room, this is the true definition of why we need to change the conversation. Instead of saying because it brought awareness, instead of saying because it depicts it in a real way, she goes, because I like the show, and I want to meet them. We can't have people like that making those decisions. We cannot. There are so many other shows and independent films and independent TV pilots that if they got recognition like that from Donate Life would launch. And to this day, I struggle with that. I accepted her response, and I moved on. I chose to award Person of the Year. I got to award that. I awarded Colleen Ballinger Miranda Sings on YouTube because she did a whole kidney transplant storyline on her show. Now, they depicted it in a very quick fashion, like all of a sudden there was a kidney transplant happening and mom was fine. That was a little inaccurate. It can happen like that, which is why I was okay with it. What I really loved about it is the show depicted a family in turmoil who, at the end of the day, come together and still find a way to save their mother's life, even though the character Miranda Sings is selfish. And that was a big thing for me. So we awarded her Person of the Year. But yeah, we have to be the people coming up now making those decisions. Otherwise, it's just going to continue. That's why I hope the resident decides to go with me, because I'll tell you now, I read the script, and there's a few inaccuracies already. And for instance, there's a thing called a pulmonary function test, a PFT. It tells us how well we're doing in our lung function. The lower it is, the worse you're doing, and you have to be in this perfect window to get transplanted. Otherwise, you're too sick or too healthy. It's really scary. So in the script, they refer to it as an LFT, and they say, my LFT is too high. I'm too sick.
Oh no, it's the opposite.
And I went, oh, I was like, I can't say that. I can't say that. Like, the CF community will butcher me. So my goal and my plan is to go in, appease the writer and creator, because I get that from a creative standpoint, do it the way they want it. And then, upon being cast and hired and flying into Atlanta, Georgia, I will go to set and I'll say, guys, can you just tweak just a little thing? Because I don't want the CF community coming for you. There's a movie coming out called 5 Feet Apart soon. There's a lot of people upset about that because, first of all, it's 6 feet. That is the rule. For CF patients, we can't be closer than 6 feet from each other because of bacterial infections. They do address that in the film. I'm very happy. They say 6 feet, and the two teenagers that are falling in love decide that they're going to be 5 feet apart. I know the filmmakers. Justin Falzoni's great. Claire Wyman was a consultant on it. I am going to support as much as I can because I believe in awareness. And this film is going to be a blockbuster hit like The Fault in Our Stars. And that means everyone's going to be Googling cystic fibrosis. So I'm going to support the best I can. But that's why we need to be changing those conversations, because we need to be the people making those decisions. Was there one more question back there? Did you have a question?
Oh, it's like a really long question.
There's another class in here, but if you guys have more questions, we have a little bit of time in the transition between classes. You can come up and talk.
Yeah, and my business cards too.
So please help me thank him for joining. I made a donation to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's amazing. The CF Foundation's great. It's really wonderful. And anything that you guys need, just email me. My cell phone number is on there too. Feel free to call or text. I'm available to you. And anything I can do to help you make your mark, whatever it is. And if you need connected to somebody like this, let me know. She's amazing too. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Please, Nina, don't come. Please.
I feel like she's always coming up to you to yell at you about something. She's gonna die. I've been getting really capstone.
Are you graduating?
Yeah, right.
What's your name?
117 seats for me. I'm in that one.
My question is keep it crying.
Come take yoga with me. What if your credit's more than once too? Because I got this. So they're like, take yoga. I'm just like, so I got pose and I just run into Daniel. I'm like, Daniel, you're like, you're here. Yeah, everyone's calling me down and facing just like,
Were the two that went on the bottom?
It's a 3-credit class. about singing.
You have my card?
Yeah. Singing.
Yeah, from I'm applying to USC, I'm going to do USC.
Air is going to premiere today.